We'll call the February 6, 2024 Select Board meeting to order. First, we have warrant 2416 and Facilities Project 33 warrant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Facilities Project 33 didn't make it in time, so we're going to
Okay.
hold off until the next meeting. We do have warrant number 2416 dated February 8th, 2024. In addition to that, we did put forth a manual warrant at the last second today, actually, so 2416M, exclusively for the purpose of postage for the motor vehicle excise commitments. Just a note of that. On warrant 2416 itself, you'll see on the payroll side of things, $838,200. On the bills payable side of things, $3,791,914. That's a pretty hefty one, so we'll break down some of that for you. On the administrator or town administration side of things, you'll see about $10,500. $7,600 of that is attorney fees, and then also $1,400 to print a couple sets of extra annual reports at the request of some citizens. For the Council on Aging, you'll see just under $40,000 for repairs to the handicap ramp, some of the work you've seen them doing out front over the past year or so. On the health side of things, just under $2,000 for the opioid abatement, actually a timely expense if anybody's cracked the Globe recently. Despite what the Globe is saying, we have been making forward progress in that area. A lot of the hang-ups that we've seen in terms of using those state opioid funds are actually, or was actually, the funds coming down from the state itself and how we could expend those funds.
Unfortunately, the Boston Globe never tells the full story.
Sometimes. So here's my platform to get the truth out to the people. And then the largest thing you're going to see, which makes up a bulk of this, is the $2.7 million Masco assessment. So that's why it's such a large expense at this time. You'll also see about $106,000 for debt service. That is for Howe Manning, so just paying down the interest on that piece.
Any questions from any board members?
One question, not specifically about an expenditure, but about an item that's an expenditure. When is our contract with our town council up for? Does that change by fiscal year, or did we sign a certain year contract? I'm just wondering for budgetary purposes.
So they're one of the services that have a carve-out, so their agreement can actually run indefinitely until you choose to change it.
Do they usually propose an annual or regular refresh of the structure?
So they'll reach out, or in this instance, Jackie, I believe, reached out to prompt them as we were putting the budget together, just to ask them to update their fees to help better inform.
I just couldn't remember, because I was thinking we were probably getting close to that time frame. But now that you write that, and auditing services are those that could just run forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's status quo this year. There's no increase.
Oh, good.
Okay, good, even better. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
So I'll move
Their
to,
fee's been pretty static now for a few years.
There's an increase to that line because we added something for the ATB for the assessors that you will
Yeah.
recall, but that's
it's-
it. But the MTC contract's been pretty static.
Very good.
and they have expertise in that area, because that's kind of a very specialized.
I don't know if we're using MTC, it's just extra $5,000 for council in general for ATB. I'm not sure the vendor.
Yeah, so the 5,000 is actually to go outside of Mead, Tellerman, and Costa for additional support for a firm that specifically specializes in that for more high-profile cases.
Do they broker it for us, or it's just a bypass of them?
Independently.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking independently, so.
It's just in the line.
Yep.
So I'll move to approve warrant 2416 and 2416M.
Second.
All in favor? We have some minutes, January 9th, open session, January 23rd, open session, and January 23rd, executive session. Any comments on them from anyone?
Nope.
Move to approve as presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have a donation, $500 to the food pantry from Eagle Bank. Is anybody here from Eagle Bank? No?
Donation from Eagle Bank with thanks to the Middleton Food Pantry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep, thank you, yeah. Town administrator report. Justin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few items that I wanted to highlight. Work is ongoing for the bottleneck reduction grant. So as you may recall, we've been taking a hard look at the intersection of Washington Street and Central Street. In an effort to get ahead of that, we've been working with this MassDOT program to try to identify potential efficiencies in the infrastructure design in that area. We are happy to report that we have received official word that MassDOT will be covering the design expense for that. We haven't determined what that exact value is going to be yet, but we wanted to communicate that to the folks in the neighborhood, who actually have been unusually quiet. We haven't seen them in a while, but just so you know, if you're listening, and we'll shoot them an email too, just to keep them in the loop. We also received word that MassDOT will cover a solid portion of the construction funds as well, whatever comes out of that design. It's capped at about $500,000. So that was a big one as well. So a huge thanks to Katrina and Paul for their continued work on that. Collectively as a group, it's been a really good effort, and I'm happy to report progress.
Yeah, is there been any noticeable improvement in that traffic in that area, and is that maybe why we haven't been?
It could be. It could be also, I don't know, just people get busy around the holidays and then the winter hits and, but we did do some improvements going in or out of the fall into the winter, restriping some things and putting some more signage and a couple, those low-hanging fruit items we talked about. So there could be.
There's still long lines at
Yes.
At those times.
No. So, we're chipping away, but we hadn't provided an update in a while, so we had a good meeting last week with the state.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that what Katrina was, that's not the grant you mentioned, but also some improvements on Creighton, on the school property itself, with striping and additions.
Oh, yeah, so all that,
that
like the
part,
hashed out
yeah.
area, yeah, it's all together.
A crosswalk or something.
Yes, yep. We have an update for the third-party stormwater review piece, but Kristen's actually with us this evening, so I'll hold off and she can give you the good news on that. We've been having conversations with the Moore and Cambring Group out of Danvers. They're an engineering firm, as a part of the follow-up to the most recent meeting we had talking about Locust Street. So I'm asking them to put together a proposal to kind of give this group a good idea in terms of scope of work for what, in an a la carte sense, what you would or would not want them to do in advance of us putting an RFP out for the Locust Street property. So I think that's going to help kind of inform that. Yep. Oh,
It was, when you're done, I have a question.
sure.
So how far would they go? They're gonna survey it, so what exactly?
We haven't given them direction yet. So I'm asking them pretty much to tell me, service A, here's the cost. Service B, here's the cost.
Okay.
And I want to bring back a menu effectively to this board so I can kind of gauge your appetite for how much are they doing full topography? Are they, flagging everything out there? Are they going to put together a plan, or do you want something a little less definitive?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see the different
What
options.
had possibly already been done when possible portion of that property was going to be used for the Howe Manning, or the proposed Howe Manning? I assume there was, now, any flagging that was done is probably long gone and blown away, but I assume there was some engineering that was done on the property in advance of determining if we were going to go forward with a project there. Is any of that reusable?
Yep, so we've been collecting as much data as we can find and passing it on to both this firm and the appraiser, just so they're not starting from zero, and we don't want to needlessly pay for legwork if we already did it. But some of that data, as you hinted at, is probably coming up on about close to 25 years old, I'd say, right?
15.
15, okay.
Yeah,
16.
yeah, something like that.
What year was it purchased?
Well, it wasn't done immediately
Oh, you did it after?
after the perk.
Okay.
2006 or 7 was the first vote.
Howe Manning is about 11 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and, the proposal before that was for the Howe Manning, so it was a few years before the current Howe Manning was approved, so.
7 or 8,
I
actually.
think it's from '07.
Yeah, 07.
So it's
Pretty
like
dated.
15 to 17 years old, so.
So either way, dated. So some of it is still good, some of it does have a little bit of a shelf life. So we're trying to salvage what we do have, just so we're not needlessly
Should the
paying.
appraiser be a little on hold until we,
Oh, they are, yeah.
yeah, decide what we're gonna do?
I reached out to them and I let them know that just hold tight, and they were supportive of the board's decision to get more data. It helps them land on a better number, so. Rick, did you still?
Well, no, backing up to Washington Street, Central Street, I've noticed some surveying and up at the top of Maple at the square, and some, looks like some vehicle census equipment. Is that part of the DOT or Village or both?
That is DOT, so that's part of this grant specifically.
We're out there today.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been out there, and then honestly, that might help too, is maybe the neighbors have seen a presence out there and they know we're
That's
continually
been
working
a
on
couple
it.
weeks, whatever, yeah, I noticed, anyway.
So, but they're out there and we're working on it. The salary survey that we've talked about is ongoing. Obviously, we took care of large swaths of our working population through the union agreements and other areas, but there's still a couple select individuals and roles that were kind of outside of that. We're waiting on that data. It's only a small handful, so it shouldn't have a huge impact on the budget, but still, we're trying to be mindful of that because all these numbers kind of add up.
Are these the surveys that were done for the, is there two different union categories that were being done? Or is this the refresh of the other piece?
It's some non-union,
Okay.
was it the VSO?
VSO, police captain, and outreach coordinator at the COA are being classified for the
Five
first
into-
time.
Into it.
And then they refreshed all of the numbers
it.
across the full schedule that we approved 2 years ago.
But I thought there was a new, maybe
We did do a DPW and a
DPW.
clerical study this year already.
but I thought there was another one that was being done or being asked to be done during negotiations. Maybe I'm wrong.
We did one in-house for another
Okay.
negotiation, but we've completed all of our contractual obligations towards
Okay.
studies at this time.
And thank you to Jackie, by the way, for her work on that and her HR capacity. It's been a huge lift. As I emailed earlier today, and I hate if I ruined the good surprise, but we've officially received word from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that the incidental take permit for the municipal building project has been approved. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll let Kristen really dig into the nitty-gritty. But it was a big win, and a huge thank you to her and to Jackie and our team in general for sticking with that. It's a long process. And if that didn't get secured, that certainly would have pushed the project back definitively, so that's a huge one for us. Our OPM has been working diligently with our architect to keep that project on schedule. I'm happy to confirm, I was notified today that final drawings are expected to be released later this month, with the subcontractor bids expected to be back for about late March. So that's gonna keep us on target. I'd like to have them out there in April. Realistically, the firm date, I think, is gonna be May 1st, that I'm holding them to, but if they can get there before then, great. And I also want to note, at our most recent budget Saturday meeting, I made reference to occupancy in October 2026, and I misspoke, it's March 2026, so there's a 6-month jump there. I met with the Charter Review Committee back on Tuesday, January 30th, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate the opportunity to kind of hear them out about some of the items that they're working on. Some of them involve my role specifically, so it's just nice that they gave thought to ask me about it and my opinion on it. As part of my opinion, I did encourage them to talk to my bosses, because your opinion also very much matters in that area as well. So I would expect at some point they'll be reaching out and asking to come in and visit you, or have you come visit them, or something along those lines.
Is there an expectation that they're bringing any recommendations to town meetings specifically about that?
That is their goal, but where we're at in the calendar, things are sort of moving along quickly, so I don't want to speak for them, but I can double check with them and maybe communicate it to the board.
Could we, sooner than later, get some time either? I think it would probably be easier, quite honestly, to have them come here, because we could get the full board participation rather than see if we can align. And I'm not sure what their schedules are like for their board meetings, but I think it would be helpful to hear specifically on that. I mean, I know, a little over a year and a half ago, they invited the board to their meeting. I know I was there, Jeff was there, I think you were there. Were you there, Costa?
I've been to other of their meetings, but I don't think that one.
It was more just asking us our input if there were things that we thought needed to be addressed, but if there are items specifically on the role that we manage that they want to discuss and possibly bring to town meeting, we can do that at a future meeting.
Sure. And I did float to them your upcoming February 20th meeting, but I haven't heard back officially, so if I hear,
Okay.
it'll pop up on the agenda. I met with Council on Aging Director Jillian Smith yesterday to take a look at the rock wall based on feedback we received, just to feel out what the future would be for that project, if any. I am kicking the tires on having an engineer come out and take a look at it. I think at minimum, even if repairs aren't necessarily done sooner rather than later, it may be prudent to have an engineering firm come out and kind of just give us a blessing that it's not going to cause any harm or damage to anyone's property or anything, so, just to be safe. And then in terms of Budget Saturday, this past Saturday, I just wanted to thank the boards and committees and staff for coming out. A lot of work goes into that. It's a very long day. These chairs are very uncomfortable, and an 8-hour stint in them is fairly unforgiving. But there was a lot of productive conversation. We really genuinely appreciate the feedback. We have a lot of work cut out for us, obviously, where we're at this stage, just trying to make things work from a numbers perspective. But our team is regrouped as of yesterday, and we're continuing to gather data. This month in particular is a big make or break month. There's a lot of larger numbers that are up in the air that really tend to settle in February and into March. So the next meeting for that purpose is going to be Saturday, March 2nd. It is open to the public, and we appreciate participation, so thank you. And lastly, this Sunday for the Middleton Rail Trail, there is the Chocolate Walk on February 11th. And Rick, I don't know if you want to add anything to that at the back end, but I will be there with my family because there's chocolate and you can't keep me away, so.
If you're ready. Okay, yeah. So we were recently contacted by Danvers and offered an idea to participate in a celebration of where the two trails connect, the towns of Middleton and Danvers. If some will recall, our town planner, Katrina O'Leary, was successful in obtaining a state grant that was a collaborative grant between the two towns, being that state money would be used in one grant for both sections of the trail that provided the connection between the two towns. So this is first of an annual. It's a chocolate walk. So you can enter from Gregory Street, or in Danvers, you can park at the Leahy Clinic parking lot. It's this February at 11 a.m., and it's a round trip of 2.5 miles. So you'd be walking from wherever you parked, you would walk to the town line and then back again. So it's a round trip of 2.5 miles. I suspect the trail's in pretty good shape because we haven't had any inclement weather, but be mindful of whatever footwear you want to wear. Bring the whole family. Your leash, your dogs are welcome, and then have some chocolate and boost your energy to finish the second part of the walk. And yeah, we're all looking forward. A lot of folks are looking forward to meeting Justin this Sunday, and the weather looks great. So that's it.
It's supposed to be warm.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice event. Any questions for Justin or anything in his report?
When do we think the salary survey work will be done?
I think this Friday, right?
Oh, so it'll be
Yeah,
done in advance of the budget?
We're hoping to have it on your 220 agenda for review.
Okay,
It's going to be a busy night, it sounds like, so.
okay.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Any public comment from anybody? Seeing none, okay. Next is Conservation Agent Kristen Kent's going to give us an update. Come on up, Kristen, good to see you. Hi.
So, as you guys know, I do wetland permitting primarily, and it's been busy. I think development has certainly slowed, but there's been a lot of additions and work on individual houses that's been going on. Also under my purview is stormwater, so I do stormwater permitting under the local bylaw, the state DEP regulations, and also the federal MS4 permit that we have for the town. That has picked up significantly. It's become a pretty significant part of my job. Not only because of the ongoing construction, but also because of the kind of severe weather patterns that we've had over the summer, and we've really had a lot of issues that have come up. As part of that, as Justin noted, we have contracted with a peer-reviewed consultant to take a look at Kuchar Way to kind of double-check the peer review that was originally done for that and see if the issues that we're having are construction period issues or if they're going to be longer-term issues that we need to take a look at. So we contracted with them last week, and we anticipate having their peer review done in the next couple weeks. And then for the last year, I've been doing Eagle permitting, which is new for me, but it's been interesting. So we just secured that permit. It's a 3-year permit. And if you're interested in the Eagle saga, I'm going to be doing a talk on it at the Council on Aging on the 28th.
Post a 3-year permit, which should be during the time frame when the buildings are done and we're
Yeah.
occupying it, will that be a every 3-year permitting process, or is this a one and done?
It's a one-time.
Okay.
And I gave us an extra year just in case, just in case.
Yeah.
Better to
Well
have the
done.
extra time.
I don't want to get ahead of it on the peer review piece, but if the peer review piece comes back and states that it is, for example, a construction-related item, like it hasn't fully been completed and so forth,
Yeah.
there's obviously a fix to that. If it's not a construction-related, that might be due to the original design. What's the process for kind of cracking that back open?
So I guess we'll have to see what the findings are.
Yeah.
I can't say, depends how intense, if there's a major issue. At some point, the road will come to us for approval. So we do still have an open permit on that. We have an open conservation permit. We have an open planning board subdivision. So I think those are our 2 opportunities
Okay.
for recourse.
Okay, thank you.
And who oversees the construction of the stormwater plan?
So there's 2 different parts. There's the individual lots, so different subdivisions are done differently. This one, the gentleman permitted the entire subdivision and then he sold off the lots. So there's 2 different parties. There's him in charge of the roadway, and then there's the individual lot owners.
But who on behalf of the town oversees that?
Me.
Okay. So if something, isn't being constructed per the plan,
Yeah.
it is up to you to get the responsible party to,
Yeah. For this subdivision. That
Yeah.
isn't always the case. The Conservation Commission was the permitting authority for this subdivision.
Okay.
If there isn't wetlands, then I am not the permitting authority. So it really depends on how the project comes in, who's in charge of it.
So if there isn't a Concom permit that's required, but there's still stormwater requirements?
Yes.
Is that under the purview of the building commissioner?
So it's very complicated. So if it's a planning board issue, if they come for a subdivision, for example, and there's no wetlands, the planning board permits the stormwater.
There's not a lot of areas in Middleton that there aren't wetlands.
Right. So typically it's me. If it's a ZBA application, like a special permit or something like that, if there are wetlands, it's me. If it's not, it's the ZBA. If it's
Does
none
the
of-
building commissioner act on behalf of the ZBA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if they don't need to come to any of the boards and it's just a plan, just a building permit, then I, again, am in charge of the stormwater.
Okay.
So typically the way if we have issues, the way we manage them is through the building permit, is our best way to manage that,
Okay.
which we've had to stop work on quite a few lots in the last couple months because of it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's complicated and we're looking at ways to streamline it so there aren't so many boards involved. Because right now, when there's an issue, people don't know who to go to.
Okay.
And I would like to offer, if I can, that, in instances where there have been stormwater-related issues and, just by the way that our system works, the residents oftentimes call one of you, and then one of you calls me, and then I call Kristen. So a huge thank you for dealing with me as we work through that process. And I understand, the past year in particular, and probably going forward into the future, that stormwater component is increasingly becoming a larger part of your role.
It's something that I took on when I went from being part-time to full-time, and at that time, it wasn't a major lift, and it's really turned into a pretty significant part of my job, which is not what conservation agents typically do. But I think that's kind of why we're looking for some administrative assistance, because I'm spending a lot of time checking on things that I didn't used to do.
So I assume part of that is Lima Way, for example, part of that is confirming before deadlines that actual orders of conditions are being met. So it's not just that you're issuing orders of conditions, or the Concom is and you're overseeing them. You're physically out
Yeah.
with your 2 eyes, your boots,
Yeah.
walking a site and so forth.
Yeah, I go out before construction starts to make sure everything's in order, and then I try to go out as much as I can, but, you know, there's a lot going on. So sometimes it's just definitely at the beginning, and then sometimes, more often than not, it's probably in response to somebody's concerns.
Yeah,
And then absolutely at the end of
At
every
the end.
project.
Okay.
So if conservation wasn't handling stormwater, who would do that?
DPW director, that's who used to do it. And that's, in most towns, that's where it resides, or a town engineer.
So I would expect, given this, the street acceptance, although that is historically seen as a DPW/building commissioner, it's really, for the vast majority of these, you firmly have your fingers involved in that process as well.
Yeah, but Paul goes out and makes sure he's comfortable with it. One of the changes we're actually going to make in response to a lot of the issues that we've been having is having, in future permits, we can't do this for ones that are open now, is requiring a peer review of the road to make sure everything's done right, because although I do this and Paul, you know, knows his stuff too, we're not engineers. And so to protect the town, moving forward, we're going to require peer reviews at the end of projects before roadways are accepted.
So in a case like that, do we have a standing peer review organization, or is it up to the developer owner to actually hire the peer review?
So this would be new because it needs to be in their permits, otherwise we will have to pay for it because we don't have a mechanism to require it. But we do have a standing relationship with a peer review firm that we've been using.
So
we would hire
maybe
them to
Kuchar
do
Way's
it.
a bad example, but any other project, I'm trying to think of a road that's set to be accepted.
Like East Meadow.
Yeah, okay. So East Meadow is just about done, or I'd say done. So that'll be the next one. Obviously, there won't be a peer review on that because it wasn't part of the original process. Do you get the feeling, I'm just calling this out, that it may be a worthwhile investment to have a peer review of East Meadow? Or do we feel that going forward on all new projects, it should be the process?
I think East Meadow, I think it depends. There's some developers we see a lot, and so we know the quality of the work because we've had engineers looking at things, and we know that we haven't had issues, and that, you know, they've been making a lot of changes as we go. So I think that one in particular, we don't have an issue. But we're getting to the point in town where the projects that are left are more challenging. It's developers who can figure out how to make them work. You know, the easy ones are gone, a lot of
Yeah.
them. And so I think we really need to have a peer review to take a look at that to make sure that we're protected.
And
So
that would
for
be
Kuchar,
either,
we may want to do
Yeah.
that because, you know, it's a steep road down to a major road that already has water issues. So I think it would behoove us to do
And
that.
what's the distance from the river to the end of, you know, to the end of East Meadow? Is that not
No,
significant?
it's
Okay.
pretty far, yeah.
so I would say, whether it's the Concom, ZBA, or Planning Board, all three in their processes are now going to require, as part of permitting, that a peer review will be part of the final.
Yeah, yeah. And also, one of the things is, you know, in a lot of cases, conservation issues a permit, and at the end, they go to the planning board to get the road accepted. They don't necessarily have to close out conservation. So historically, people have just left it open, because why spend the time and energy with conservation? They don't need it. But when everybody on the road goes to sell their houses, they have to get single releases, and that's a lot of work for us, but also.
Had to do that.
Yeah. But also, you know, that's not the right way to do things. So, you know, Katrina and I have been working together to, you know, make sure that planning's requiring that
Yeah.
conservation's closed out first, so that we're not left with open permits that are causing problems for residents.
Okay,
So,
that's a good proactive move, thank you.
Yeah.
and part of this year's budget, we're including a stormwater fund that will allow me to do peer review work when it comes up, like for Kuchar and some of these others that didn't have that as a requirement of their permit, just in case those issues come up. Hopefully they won't, but.
Well, I mean, I think this is overall, I mean, this one doesn't relate to Concom, but the overall process. I mean, I think the Planning Board and the ZBA are getting comfortable with the process now of ensuring that developers or builders that are coming in to understand that there's certain expectations. For example, if you're putting in a development, we're going to expect something around sidewalks leading into the development. You're either going to build them or you're going to invest in them, one of the two. And it's now going to become you come to do this in Middleton, this is the process you need to understand, this is the modus operandi. And secondly, will be you're putting in a roadway, even if it's in an area that hasn't historically been wet. Part of that is going to be whether it's a Concom or not a Concom approval, that there's going to be a peer review before the project. I mean, I think we've made a lot of headway on even just how we accept roads. The way we did it probably 8-10 years ago was probably not as
Yeah, I think we've come a long way. Yeah.
So I think this is a perfect add-on. I mean, we all learn from everything and, you know, what we've gone through in the summer and the spring of this year. That just passed is, you know, this is belts and suspenders.
So would that peer reviewer just make sure it's built to plan, or would so that peer reviewer wouldn't have the right to say this is built to plan, but I don't think it's gonna work right? Would they have that right, or just the right that it's built to plan?
Just built to plan. So as part of the initial permitting, we would have it peer reviewed to make sure it was well
Yeah, I was just,
designed.
so the peer review will happen.
There'll be two.
Two phases. The first one is, here's the plan they've submitted, the Concom or the ZBA or the planning board's looked at it, but here's a independent organization, not paid for by us, but required by us, that's gonna say, I believe this will work. And then in the end, now, if it doesn't work, it's been peer reviewed and stated it would, but at the end, when it's accepted, or before acceptance is, this has absolutely been built to what was approved.
Right. But that peer reviewer isn't saying it's a design he likes or is gonna work perfectly. He's just saying you were supposed to put a 2-inch pipe in this spot, and you put a 2-inch pipe in this spot.
At that point, yeah. But, you know, what's nice in some ways about these construction periods is they're lengthy. So we do have the opportunity to realize if there are problems. Kuchar, pretty quickly, we realized there were problems just, you know, because of the weather we happened to have, but also because so many of the lots were under construction at once. So it gave us kind of a view into what the issues might be pretty early on, so that hopefully we can get them corrected.
Hopefully, a lot of that was, the drainage system wasn't fully compliant yet because the lots weren't fully leveled and pitched and.
I think it's a construction period primarily.
I
You know,
think
there's
you-
no grass, things aren't pitched right, so I think that was a major contributor.
And
We'll see.
Yeah.
who's responsible for the damage that's been done?
So we've had some back and forth on that. Part of that is informed by what we hear back from the engineer. And it's, you know, falls into one of those categories. If it's a flaw with the design, then it falls on the engineer. If it's a situation where,
Well, it falls on the developer.
excuse me, on the developer. If it's a situation where it can't be proven, or there's nothing that really comes up with the peer review, it's something, unfortunately, that, you know, their home insurance policy is gonna have to sort out, and sometimes weather events happen. But that's what we're trying to sort out, is if the engineer can definitively state that everything was done right, then it's kind of a, you know, a tough situation.
Well, if it was designed right is one thing, but if it's, you know, if part of the problem was that, you know, all the lots were being built on at the same time, why should the homeowner's policy be responsible? Somebody, you know, the homeowner just sitting over here didn't do anything.
Right.
And because of,
Well, I would assume that project, because that was a Concom-approved project, right? So I assume as part of the Conservation Commission's order of conditions, there were certain requirements around hay bales, silt fences, temporary retention and so forth. So that's another reason why I think peer review in the beginning of the process can also look at not just what's being designed, but I assume also the order of conditions to ensure that, you know, Kuchar may be an example of a really extreme topography, really extreme weather, and a lot of construction happening at once. Or who knows, it may be a design flaw. But I think the peer review piece isn't just to make sure what we're getting from the engineers through the developer is aligned to what works, but also what the order of conditions during construction are, to ensure that that aligns to, I mean, I think we're all learning a lot from this. I mean, hopefully we don't see another project like that.
And I think this is a somewhat unique subdivision. A lot of the subdivisions in town are bigger projects. The same person permits it and builds the entire thing. This is unique in that he permitted it and then he sold everything off. And so each individual lot is a different contractor's problem. So I think that in some ways contributes as well, because it's people coming in and doing a one-off. They're not necessarily concerned about stormwater, you know, and so there's a couple issues at play, I think. So
Well,
this should
maybe
be
the ones
enlightening,
that
I think, the peer
have had their construction halted will,
Yes, they're aware.
That's a-
There's a couple up there.
that message moves quickly.
Yes, they've gotten the message for sure.
Okay.
Any questions on anything else from conservation?
You're digitizing too now, right?
Yes, we're digitizing our records. They're all about to go out in the next month. We have everything packed up and ready to go.
So 100% of your records will be,
100%
how far back?
to when the Wetlands Protection Act started, so 1980 probably.
Wow.
All of my records are packed up and ready to go. And it's a joint effort with health, so I don't know if theirs are all going to get done at once or if the money's going to go far enough for everybody, but theirs are going out as well.
And will some of this be available, like, somebody's on our website and they can access?
Eventually.
Yeah.
We're still working out the kinks
Yeah.
on that, yeah.
Gotta get it all digitized first.
And some stuff needs to be protected. I know we're trying to figure out how to make sure people have access to the appropriate things.
So once everything's digitized, what do we have to keep for paper copies?
Still have to
Still
keep
have to
it.
keep them.
Still? So you have stuff from the 60s and 70s, paper copy we have to keep?
1980, yeah.
Or 80s, I mean?
Yeah, yep. I actually don't have that many files overall. They're fairly condensed. But yeah, the plan is to bring them to the new building. We have storage rooms in our suite. So that's, everybody's
It's right
planning to
there
take
on
their
where you are, okay,
their
yeah.
stuff with them, yeah. Health planning and conservation is, building is not taking theirs with them.
Yeah, because they're staying.
There's no place. No, there's no place for them.
No, they're going.
They're
Well,
going.
there's no, I'm
the
sorry, but
plans
there's
are
no
staying.
place for
There's no
their,
storage, yeah.
so their
They have a lot.
long-term repository is going to stay at, that's what I
Yeah.
meant, at their facility.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
It was
Great job.
informative, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a vote on a new common victuals license from Boba Tea and Snow Ice House, 248 South Main Street. Manager Cherie, Pitch, Chat. I think that's in the Dairy Queen Plaza, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can tell us what you're planning to do?
Today I come to get the license. Can I show you?
Yeah, so, yeah, we can work on this together.
I did that.
Yeah, so they have everything. So they've seen your application. So this is your opportunity. So we're on television. This is your opportunity to tell the board and the public what you're going to be selling, what type of restaurant you're going to have. And it's like a great ad for your business. So if you want to tell us about what you're going to serve for on your menu and what kind of business it's going to be.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah. So my business is about boba tea, the boba milk tea. We have boba milk tea, fruit tea, and smoothie. Yeah, and we have some macaron and some egg waffle. Yeah.
And it's just a counter, no seating, correct?
No sitting.
And you'll be the manager?
Yeah.
So that's stuff.
Is this the location that is presently, or was formerly the flooring store?
Location?
Yes. What was the store before it was yours?
Oh, it's
Flooring
the
store,
flooring,
yeah,
yes,
okay.
the flooring.
So right to the left of Dairy Queen, a little bit to the right of,
Yes.
When are you anticipating opening?
I think like on March.
March? Okay, another
Yeah.
month? Yeah.
And,
Yes,
are you
sir.
going to be open 7 days a week?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and what hours? So people will know how to come to you.
Yeah, we open on the morning, 11 till 9 p.m. Yes, sir.
it's a long day.
Yes, 10 hours.
And is this the name of it? Boba Tea and Snow and Ice House? Is that like, will be the sign?
Yes, sir.
And you have one in Lynn, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So, I have a son and a daughter that have heard about this and are extremely excited for you guys opening up.
Oh, really?
Extremely excited, so
Don't
sure they'll
forget
be in sometime in March.
don't forget tell him to come boba tea.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the common victular license for Boba Tea House and Snow Ice, Boba Tea and Snow Ice House located at 248 South Main Street with the manager, help me if I'm saying this incorrectly, Srey Pitch Chat?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Srey Pitch Chat.
Second.
Sorry, big chat.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome to Middleton. Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, you're all good. You don't have to stay for the
Bingo.
whole thing either.
You're all set.
So we've signed the license, and at this point, they just have to have their final
Health and-
inspection.
Health and, yeah, the inspections, yeah.
May I actually, I have that
Yeah, it's in
staff.
here.
Okay, next we have a vote to authorize the superintendent of schools, Scott Morrison, to submit a statement of interest for Fuller Meadow School roof repairs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in your packet this evening titled MSBA Vote Fuller Meadow Roof Authorization, as previously mentioned in a recent meeting, the Tri-Town School Union has expressed interest in entering into MSBA program for the purpose of repairing the roof on this building. It wouldn't be the entire part of the roof, only some of it qualifies. Another piece of it was updated too recently, so it doesn't qualify for the program.
So what this would be is the part of the roof that was part of the 1998-99 addition and renovations. which
And
would-
like the modulars, I think is how they
Yeah,
reference it.
because when we did the override last, it was for the existing part of the building,
Yeah.
because,
This is for the new
yeah,
addition.
well, it's not
which
so
is-
new anymore.
Well, yeah, it's over 20 years old.
Okay.
So we have been notified that the statement of interest period is open. And as part of that process, they need a vote from the school committee and the select board stating pretty much that you have interest in exploring this. It doesn't necessarily commit you to it, but you have interest in exploring it. So I was going to ask for the recommended motion this evening, but to date, I haven't received the, I guess, rough scope of work / proposed cost that I think I should be able to get from the school sometime next week. So I'm going to advise that for now, you just hold off on voting until we get that data. It was supposed to come in as part of the capital planning process, but it didn't hit my inbox today.
So this is the school building authority's expedited smaller project program, correct?
So they had actually put that program on pause for some time.
That was reopening.
So, it's my understanding that they're starting the program up again. I'm not necessarily sure, though, if it's going to be able to fall within that category. And so for folks watching at home, what this realistically means is they could come forward and say that they're able to do it this year, in which case we have to kind of scramble the jets and get everything going. They could say not this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after. It's kind of like the TIP program in that sense a little bit, so.
Oh, I hope it's not the timeline of the tip.
Yeah. And so what I asked them to do, in the spirit of that we don't know when it's actually going to hit, is to put in a capital request so that we have our share, ready to go, basically, if there's support for it. So for now, I would say just hold tight. You've been notified. Let me get the scope from them, and we'll bring it back on your meeting for the 20th, and there'll still be plenty of time for you to vote on it.
And if we're told nothing this year, maybe in the next couple of years, are we talking about a need that maybe can't wait for SBA funding? Or is this something that, are we going to roll the dice every year
Yeah.
for the process? I mean,
And that's something that they're still trying to sort out. It is a critical need, but I don't think it's at a point where they're quite in a full panic. Now, with that said, you don't really want to wait until you're in a full panic to try to get a roof hammered in.
yeah, when we had the existing building done, the roof replaced 6-7 years ago. I remember SBA at the time would not allow us to do any work to the, would not cover what we're talking about now. However, I do remember that I think there were some units that were changed in the roof that required some roof repairs that ended up being covered by the project. But, so is this funding that may be put into the capital process, is that to fund the design or fund the design and construction?
Yeah, it would be whatever our projected portion would be for each.
Okay.
Which has yet to be determined, so.
So we would have to commit the construction portion of the dollars as well to be accepted into SBA. So, and I know you don't have the numbers or anything yet, but when we did the existing part of the building, which was much larger than the addition, that was a project that required a capital exclusion override. Is this a project that would be similar capital exclusion override, or? So would we be required to put it in our capital plan, pass it as part of town meeting, and pass it on an override in order to get this submitted?
So I don't have a good enough of a figure yet to determine how much it's actually gonna get you for. And that's partly what we're trying to narrow
Okay,
down at this point.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
But even so, it's one of those where if you bring it to a town meeting and you get the authorization, doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna go out and tie up that money right away. You just kind of keep it in your pocket, so when the time comes and MSBA does come forward, you're ready to go.
And the local authorization has to be in place before MSBA commits? Or do they commit and then give the town 60 and 90 days to come up with their share?
You get a time period to come up with your share, but the hard part is it gonna sync up with an existing town meeting? So,
They're usually in the spring timeframe is what they usually do. So, and we would actually have to override the full amount, and then the SBA dollars would come back to actually supplement the cost of paying for the full amount. Okay.
So what is the condition of, is it active leaks, or what is
Just
it?
gonna say, yeah.
yeah, so.
'Cause it says repairs, so we're not talking the whole roof.
Yeah, so there are some active leaks, but it's not like they have a bucket out every 10 feet, is the way it's been described to me. And so their biggest concern is that, you could wait a season and everything. Like, once a roof starts going, it goes.
Goes fast.
Yeah, it's a pretty unforgiving.
So, do you think this is coming up now because this grant is out there, or do you think if this grant didn't exist, we would still be talking about doing this right now?
Yeah, as described to me, it sounds like it's a need one way or
Okay.
another.
I mean, if you think about, I remember, I remember coming to the ribbon cutting when they reopened the school after the construction. That was like 98, 99. So that roof reached its life, and I know when we did the override for the old roof, the reason why we tried to do it all is because we knew this was going to happen.
The new part of the building opened when my son was in first grade, which would have been in 97.
Okay, it was 97, okay. I didn't even have kids then.
So we'll put this on the next agenda, it sounds like?
Yes, please, yep, on the
Okay.
20th.
All right, so we'll do that. I don't think we need a
7
vote to do
years.
that. I think we'll
Nope.
just do
Yep.
that. Okay, we'll move on. So does anyone have any follow-up, or Justin, to you or Jackie, on the operating budget meeting? Any comments?
Just one more thing in the roof repairs. So we're going to at least have a holding place on our potential
Town meeting?
town meeting
For
warrant.
this year, yeah, we're
okay.
gonna have something in there, one way or another.
Okay.
So in terms of the budget Saturday update, nothing in-depth to offer. I think it's early. The financial situation, as mentioned on that day, it's relatively dreary, but it's something that a lot of communities nationwide and really globally are experiencing. There's a lot of economic uncertainty, and so we're working hard to try to tighten the belt anywhere we can realistically tighten it. I know that in years prior, before I got to here, about this time last year, maybe a month later, there was a lot of talk amongst this board about, whether or not the time had come for another override last year, or if it would be this year, or, whenever determined appropriate. And so we're trying to not take it for granted. We don't want to needlessly pass any expenses on to the citizens of Middleton. And so that's what our team is working on, is actively trying to find ways to make this thing realistic. Because, you know, we're not the only ones with a tight budget right now. Every household has a tight budget right now, too. So that's all I have to say about that for now, but there'll be more to come in March.
I think people will remember, we were, you know, we narrowly averted last year in large part due to Jackie and Sarah and all the department heads working at avoiding that. And then, you know, so, we avoided it for 1 year, but
The volume of
Comes to
towns that are
reality.
likely to be doing overrides this year is going to be extremely large. I mean, we're dealing with what every other town is dealing with, the cost of services, the cost of goods, and look at just the salary survey that's ongoing and being refreshed is staying competitive on salaries in an extremely competitive market for jobs. So, I mean, I think those three things combined, anybody that owns a business now is dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with. So I just think if we just continue to be very vocal and transparent about, and we are doing that, about where we are. I mean, we've been saying for over a year plus that the day is probably coming, and I think we're there. I think there are a couple of items that need to absolutely be funded that we haven't been able to in the last several years, that if we don't start moving forward on those, I think it'll have a significant detrimental effect on the town. Add to that just all the other costs. So and I'm not an override fan, but I think the time has come that we don't have a choice. What that looks like and how we showcase that to the public and receive buy-in from the public is really going to be based on showcasing the need. So, but, you know, I appreciate that. I think this whole board, I mean, we said it in fall town meeting, that the likelihood is that we would be back, not because we want to, but because we have to.
And part of it, you know, is external forces of change that force things on communities, like the police training, you know, regulations, where, you know, 5, 10, 20 years ago, a significant portion of our police shifts were covered by reserve officers. The reserve officers have basically been legislated out of existence by the new police training regulations, and therefore, to protect the town, we need more full-time officers. Full-time officers cost more than reserve officers, so.
Okay, to be continued, I think, right? We'll move on. So we have to declare some surplus property from the Council on Aging. Two chairs, 2 red chairs, 9 blue chairs, 13 burgundy chairs, and 8 other blue chairs, I
there
guess.
you go. That's what they look like.
Yeah,
So we got 30, 43, about 50 chairs, right?
roundabout.
Are there any organizations that we could donate to that may be able to utilize these? I don't know if any of the churches, synagogues, you know, either within the town or within the area, or private schools or others that may have a need.
The quality is quite poor, but once
So we
you
may
declare
be-
them surplus, we can explore those options.
I mean, is the plan to just declare surplus and just scrap and dispose of them? I mean, are
They
they
were
at
gonna
that
sell
point?
them at the COA yard sale, from my understanding.
Okay, okay.
We're not going to balance the budget on it, though, so don't get too excited.
Well, there's 21 red chairs without wheels, that could make the difference.
And they have
But there are
New
so many
chairs.
so many good chairs with wheels.
So I'll move to declare these chairs as surplus.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have
So,
some,
can I ask a question? So when the new Council on Aging facility opens, I'm expecting that that's going to include, you know, a lot of the equipment which isn't a lot, that's at the current Council on Aging senior site. is likely not going to come with us to the new facility.
Correct. So the total price tag for the new facility includes furnishings. But that said, I think from a crumple zone perspective on the budget, it's probably one of the first things to try to tighten up is to be realistic about what can we reuse or.
Can we keep, right?
But isn't the money from Blue Haven earmarked for furnishings and things for the senior center?
I mean, I think for the COA too, there's beyond furnishings, there's exercise equipment, there's programming equipment, there's a lot of needs there.
Kitchen
that-
equipment.
But all the Blue Haven money is earmarked for that, correct?
And it's, yeah, and we've incorporated that into the revenue for the project budget.
And
as-
it's
for that.
earmarked for both, not just for the facility, but for council on aging programming. So that
Is it, or
could-
just for,
Well, it's for the things they need to do the programming.
but not for you wouldn't use any of that money for, it's for physical things? It's
Yes,
not-
so
it
the
wouldn't be
equipment
like
and supplies and so
Yes,
forth. It
yeah.
wouldn't be to,
Pay somebody to come in and teach a class.
or to go to a
Right.
library.
It's
I mean,
for-
a
But to
museum
outfit
visit.
the
Right.
outfit the community classroom with things that aren't furniture, but are like physical things you need to
Right.
do a class.
And roughly, offhand, do you recall how much that,
225 once it all comes in.
225,000 from Blue Haven, right? At each sale, the people that don't
Yeah.
know, are required as part of their permit to,
I think we're at 170 come in so far off the top of my head.
okay.
Yeah, they should, all of it, I mean, wasn't it, they had to pay when they got the occupancy
There's
permit.
a couple occupancies outstanding.
And then I think the last two homes that are on the site haven't been sold yet.
Yeah, they're not finished with the two out front that I can see, so those certainly aren't.
But we
occupied.
thank them for it. I mean, it's a wonderful,
Well, it was great.
gift.
I don't know how many developers, we've seen do that, so.
Well, it was part of the,
Permanent, yeah.
it was part of the, it was part of the negotiation to get what they got.
Yeah. But
Honestly.
But it was
good
offered.
good negotiation item for us.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, we have some board and committee appointments. So we have one of the applicants, you are Margaret. So, Margaret, I see that you,
I volunteered to do lots of things, not realizing they were all gonna come up at
so
once.
These are
can,
all yours.
can I ask you, which one is your preference?
Well, my first choice would be Council on Aging.
Okay.
Mostly because I retired at the end of last year, and I've actually been going to the Council on Aging, so I'm participating in the programs there, so I've gotten a feel for, sort of what's there. I mean, I'm still new, it's only been 6 weeks since I retired. But that, so from a pure, the Council on Aging, and then I have past experience being on boards. So I was on the board of my alma mater, and while some people roll their eyes at it, I've had board training, so training to be on boards. So I've got that sort of background, but as far as being part of the community and using the center, then for the things that I've said, I'm interested in this, Council on Aging would be my first choice.
Okay. And I think we had
So that's a
three,
no on cultural council?
Well, I'm willing to help wherever there is needed.
Honesty.
So I will say, the amount of work as a COA member, board member, is going to be larger than as a cultural council member. So, not that the cultural council doesn't do anything, but they do not have as frequent or rigorous of an amount of work. I don't ever want to say no to somebody that has all this free time over the last 6 weeks and wants to volunteer. I'm fully in support of you joining the Council on Aging. I'm fully in support, but if you think that you may also want to do the Cultural Council in addition, I would love that. I know you had also put down for the Industrial and Commercial Design Review Committee. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, and also, that, I just thought that sounded interesting, but if there was somebody who, that's their day job, then I totally, recommend that would be the person that would get that opportunity.
So I will say, more often than not, people that serve in our Council on Aging get involved in other things in the town. After that, it's one of our best boards in town. very engaging. You're getting in the ground floor before we move into a new facility, and you get to work and support one of our greatest department heads we have in this town, Jillian and her team over there. They're doing some great things. So, I mean, on that level, I would at least, for one of these appointments, make a motion that we appoint Margaret Alfonso to the Council on Aging Board. And I'll ask our keeper of our dates for a term.
25.
So term through June 30th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay. Does anyone want to put any other candidates in a motion also for a vote? I'm fine if not. I just want to make sure. No? I'm the biggest believer of anyone that it means a lot that you came tonight and you're here. That means a lot to me. I will say that. So seeing no other nominations, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Okay.
Mr. Chair, we did give them a later time. We moved through this agenda much more quickly. So other people might show up, which might be what's happening. We gave them 7 o'clock, so you moved
Right.
through rather quickly, so there might be more coming.
Okay.
But that's only one seat, so you still have one more on that board.
Oh, there were two seats on the council on
No,
Aging?
only
Oh, I
one.
apologize, only one.
seat.
Okay.
We have 2 in the Cultural Council, 1 full and 1 alternate on the Industrial Commercial Design Review, and then a rec commission.
Okay.
Can I make a nomination for,
Well, let's, on some of the other ones, I was gonna ask maybe,
This is Joseph Scott, Mr.
okay.
Chair.
So, Joseph, I see you put on for Council on Aging.
I did.
We just actually filled that one. Are there any of the other ones? Cultural Council, Industrial Review Committee, Rec Committee that you would be interested in, or is it just that?
Actually, it'd be helpful if you tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure,
I mean, I know we have your information, but.
Sure. So, the reason I was interested in Council on Aging is 25 years into a 35-year financial services career, I moved my mom into assisted living. And that was my first exposure to seniors. It was a great experience, and I vowed that I would retire early and do something in that space. And so for the last 6 years, I've been working in senior move management. So we work with clients, moving them from their longtime homes to retirement communities. And it's been one of the most rewarding experiences to listen to client stories and to know that we stand on the shoulders of all of those elders. And they're amazing people that need protection and advocacy and support. And that's really why I was very interested in Council on Aging.
Memorable.
Okay. That one has been filled. I don't know if, would you be interested in Cultural Council or Rec Commission or anything else?
No.
Mr. Chair, we can notify him.
Of a
Yeah,
next,
we-
Comes up again.
This is not a committee that we don't, it's not I'm going to say this backwards. It's not infrequent that we have openings on the Council on Aging. We also have alternate positions on the council. Do we not have alternate? We
Well,
used
it's a
to.
9-member committee, so it's just
Yeah,
full
okay.
members. But I can say that we do always look for volunteers at the Council on Aging if you have not been to the center yet. We also, we look for people to teach classes, offer programs, volunteers, and that's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door. And then I can make a note for our admin assistant who can let you know the next time a vacancy comes up.
Terrific.
So to what you described in your background, I'd actually also recommend, if you haven't, have you met Jillian, our Council on Aging Director?
No.
So we can have the office reach out to get you Jillian's contact info. I think what you do in your experience, I just know moving my mother from one home to another home, not even assisted living, was stressful enough. But I've had friends that have described what you just went through. I actually think that would be a really interesting topic to bring to the Council on Aging, and more specifically to bring to the senior center as seniors are aging and looking for alternatives for maybe making the decision to move into assisted living or some, or just those that are downsizing.
Yeah, we do lots of programs on moving, downsizing, but also should I stay or should I go? When do you make the decision? When's the right decision? Caregiver burnout, because oftentimes seniors are caregivers. And it's
Yeah,
really
more
tough.
often than not, the average caregiver of an Alzheimer's individual in the United States is a 74-year-old female. That's the average caregiver.
Yeah.
So I'd highly recommend, actually, we will make sure that
Right.
that she actually has your contact info. But we're also going to put a notice in that when we do have a COA opening, we'll ensure that you are notified. And
Appreciate it.
You
Right.
can call tomorrow.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your interest. Thank you very much.
For the other positions, seeing that there's no applicants here, I would actually entertain a motion to continue it and try and reach out to these people and let them know that we expect them to come.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I do have some information from some of them. For example, we do have someone from the Recreation Commission. She could not be available tonight. She just couldn't attend on a Tuesday at nighttime. But she has been attending, I think, the last 3 or 4 Recreation Commission meetings. And I did get a call from the co-chair of that commission that she is a recommended person from that commission. She has already attended 3 or 4 of their meetings before her letter of interest came in. And
that's Laura Hillary.
yeah, I got a special call on that one, and she felt very badly that she couldn't attend, but I told the co-chair of the Recreation Commission I would send that information to this board.
That changes it a little, I don't know if,
Well, for the other two, we at least have one of the candidates that actually appeared here today. So I'm going to give another pitch. Would you also be interested in the Cultural Council?
Sure.
I mean, we're going to fill up all of this free time you have as a retiree. So I hate looking at a gift horse in the mouth, as i.e. somebody that raised their hand and said, I want to serve. So I'd appreciate at least if we could make an appointment of one of those seats, which would be my motion to appoint Margaret Alfonso as a member of the Cultural Council for a term of June 30th, 2025. Six. He's the keeper of our dates, if you haven't figured it out.
I just look at the appointment forms.
You just signed it.
I give you all the credit, and it's just a piece
This
of
whole
paper?
time.
Okay, so notwithstanding cost of keeping the list that I always thought he kept, for a term through June 30th, 2026.
Second.
okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Given the recommendation on the rec commission that Jackie had received, do we want to appoint that one?
I'll make a motion to appoint Laura Hillary to the Recreation Commission.
And I would second that motion.
Through 26, Mr. Chair?
Through 2026?
Did I couldn't tell if I heard that in the motion. Through 2026?
Yes, through 2026.
That's what I heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So what we haven't filled is the IDRC,
ICDRC, yeah.
CDRC, Industrial Design Review Committee, or the
Other Cultural Council.
other council. So the question is,
So, Mr. Chairman, I would actually, because I believe the ICDRC is able to participate, there is enough membership to actually have a quorum, am I correct?
yeah, yes.
So I would see if we could have, so I know, Margaret, we're not going to point you to a third committee, but I would appreciate if there was a time that Peter could come in. And I'd also say that the ICDRC is a committee that I would, I kind of like to hear somebody in terms of their rationale and their background and get to know them. So I would be more than comfortable to, if the board agrees, to actually have that appointment in a future meeting, that Peter and/or any other candidates, unless Margaret wants to be a candidate again, is able to attend.
And I did not hear back from Mr. Graziani. I'm just going to check on Ms. Plourde for the Cultural Council. I can't recall if I heard from her.
I definitely agree 100%.
Asked if, I think Costa was the only one that was on the board at the time. This is before Zoom was cool, but we had an appointment once for a planning board alternate where we actually had a gentleman dial in who I think was out of the country at the time for work. So although we are a Zoom-free meeting now because of past technical issues, if there is a future meeting that either Peter or Joan or others are able to attend, but can't attend in person due to travel for work or other items, I'd welcome the opportunity to at least have a Zoom component with them.
And you were gonna check, Jackie, on
I didn't hear from
Joanne?
Mr. Graziani or Joanne Plorde. Apologies on pronunciation. I did not hear from either of them a yay or a nay on attendance, so we can certainly give them a phone call tomorrow
Okay,
and see if they can join us on 2:20. And regarding item E, Mr. Chair, we do have an applicant, and I cannot recall who it is at this time, for the planning board alternate, but that requires a joint meeting. And Housing Authority let me know today that they'll be ready for a joint appointment for their citizen member for the Housing Authority, their resident member, excuse me. So with the board's permission, we can throw those on 2:20 and have the planning board and Housing Authority join us if they're available.
Is the Housing Authority appointment, is it now vacant, or is it somebody up for reappointment?
A vacancy for their resident seat.
Yeah, I remember the last time we did that. Okay.
on
I
the
believe they've got a candidate.
planning board, was there one candidate? I don't have it in front of me. Was there one or two candidates for that?
If I recall, I don't have it in front of me
You
either,
have the
I'm sorry.
packet,
I didn't put it in the packet.
I
It was
think-
in an earlier draft agenda,
It
but I
was
can
sent-
email you tomorrow.
Yeah, I think there
Mr.
might have
Chair.
been, I think when Justin sent it over, I think there might actually be two, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Was it, do you
I
remember?
thought there was two.
I think there's two.
I honestly can't remember. There were so many names on this one.
Right, I
But-
think there were two.
I think there's two, and what I can do is send them out tomorrow, but I'll confirm with the planning board first that they can attend on 2:20. Because-
Let's confirm with the applicants first that they can come, because I think it,
Okay.
as you know, I will almost never vote for any appointment that I don't meet the person in person, so maybe make sure the applicants are available and then reach out to the planning board. Same with the other one. If the planning board is coming, would it be appropriate or inappropriate to ask for an update on the zoning amendments from them while they're here in the room?
Might be a good way to kill two birds with one stone. They're actually, I believe, intending to get it on for your review anyway. They're meeting on
The
February,
28th.
on the 14th.
I think they moved it up.
No,
Did
they changed that to the
The
28th.
public hearing's the 28th.
Okay.
I think they do have a they have to have a meeting.
Yeah, a meeting to-
They have
yeah,
to
in
come to you,
advance
and you
to
have to
refer
send
it.
it to the
Yeah, to
public
send it back to
hearing
them.
So we'd have to send it to them before their public hearing or after their?
Yeah.
before, so that'd
So
be
if their public
2:20.
hearing is the 28th,
Yes.
then we should have them in on the 20th, so we can
So
get
they
it
can
to
do two things, so it's a good opportunity to,
I'll take a look at the logistics and get back to you on it, just to make sure we're not skipping a step or anything, but
Okay.
I think that makes sense. If they're here, why not kill
Yeah.
two birds with one stone?
okay.
Right.
Yeah, all right, I'm fine with that.
And are these the only boards and committees that we have vacancies right now?
Let me double check, but I believe the answer is yes, with the exception of planning and housing authority. But I would just, give me 1 second.
It's actually pretty good if that's the case.
We're doing actually really remarkably well statistically. Yep, so we had the Council on Aging, Cultural Council, ICDRC, Planning Board, and Rec Commission. So if we fill the Cultural Council, a couple seats on ICDRC, Planning, and Housing, we will have a full slate of board and committee members. I think for the first time that I've ever worked for a town. I don't know about you. I don't think I've ever had 100% seats filled, so.
My experience has been similar. It's hard to get people to step up.
So, that's excellent for the town, it's excellent for the board, done a lot of recruiting, so that's great.
Okay, so we'll do that with the planning board, hopefully, so probably if we aren't able to have that joint appointment, if the candidates aren't ready, we probably still want to have them in, or at least a representative from them in to talk about the zoning.
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully we'll do both. Okay, I think,
Margaret, so we have signed your appointment forms, so at your leisure, go down and see the town clerk. She's going to have you raise your hand twice and get sworn in for both of these, and then it will be official. Again, Cultural Council doesn't meet as regularly, but COA does.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
you.
Nice to meet you.
any updates or announcements before we go into executive session, from anybody?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple more things on the chocolate walk, yeah. Yeah. I wasn't prepared to do it at the top of the meeting.
Sorry, I
was
put
already
you
at
on the
bottom.
spot, yeah.
So once again, just to remind everybody, this Sunday, plenty of time to get out and get back before your Super Bowl pregame, is a chocolate walk being put on by both Danvers and Middleton Rail Trail, and will be held at the town line on the rail trail of Danvers and Middleton, located between the Leahy Outpatient and Gregory Street. But I had to make sure that I said some thank yous. So people moved real quick to get this together. So from the Middleton Rail Trail, I want to thank Marty Emick, Sherry Armitage, Charlie Costigan, John LeBlanc, Carolyn Givens, Kerry Staffier, Richard Gilman, Tom Targnosky, and Dennis O'Leary for kind of cobbling together this whole thing. And I have to say thank you to Danvers Rail Trail, especially a shout out to Paul Goodwin and our DPW for, I know that they responded to Charlie Costigan that, you know, as we know, it's been a rough weather stretch here, so there's been some erosion, and while we'll address all of that come the spring, they were super to get out there and smooth out some spots for us. So thank you, Paul Goodwin and the DPW. And last but not least, our own Winfrey's Fudges and Chocolates for their generosity in donating some of the goodies. So I had to get that out there. Thank you.
Being that the Patriots aren't in the Super Bowl, it was my understanding it was just canceled this year, so.
It's really not really that, but yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to non-union personnel, and we will not be returning to open session.
Okay, do you want to take a roll?
Oh, certainly. Brian?
Yes.
Costa?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Okay, we're in executive session.